I want to tell your audience this. People always do this thing where they go, well, you got CNN over here and you got Fox over here, and they kind of both do their own thing. Well, what about AP? And what about Reuters? And what about USA Today? And what about all these places you leave out who are clearly in the camp of the left? I mean, they all regurgitated this story the same way. These are people understand what Fox is doing and people understand what MSNBC is doing. But what they don't really understand is what USA Today and AP and Reuters are doing, which is lying as well.
Yeah, you're so right. That's why the NPR expose written by this guy earlier this week was so telling, because he's still on the inside. It was published at the Free Press, and he came out with an article all about his own organization. His name is Yuri Berliner, senior business editor, continues to, at NPR for 25 years. And this piece is exposing how extensive the rot is inside of NPR, how everything is seen through a diversity lens. There's NPR Noir for the Black employees. My friend accurately pointed out, there's no NPR Blanc, Adam. That's not a thing. There's an affinity group for every kind of racial group. All of their coverage is seen through that lens. There are no conservatives, literally not one in at least the DC bureau, and I'm sure it's true for most of NPR. And yet they're publicly funded. They have government funding. Trump saying the other day it ought to be rescinded. And now you've got the New York Times cleanup piece on it saying, okay, they've been accused of liberal bias. NPR in turmoil after it is accused of liberal bias, as though it's just an allegation. And then they say that they've responded forcefully. They forcefully pushed back. And their evidence is, to quote Edith Chapin, the organization's editor-in-chief, saying, quote, "We believe that inclusion among our staff, with our sourcing, and in our overall coverage is critical to telling the nuanced stories of the country and our world." That's not forcefully pushing back. That's admitting that you're obsessed with DEI instead of news. And you, as this internal guy, Yuri Berliner points out, haven't raised your minority viewership or reading population by one person. They're still dirt low. No, they don't want to watch or listen to your publications any more than whites or Asians do.
Well, a couple things. I experienced this firsthand. I think about 10 years ago, one of my books came out. I went to Manhattan. I was doing a media tour, and I went down to NPR, and I think I was on Brian Lair's show, and I sat down and did a long interview with him, audio interview. And at the beginning of the interview, he tried to bust me because he played a snippet of my podcast where there was a stereotypical Asian voice being used. And he thought it was me. And he tried a gotcha moment at the beginning of the interview, which is, first off, thank you very much. I'm just sitting down to do an interview and we're here to talk about my comedy book, but you try your gotcha thing because you're NPR and you're woke. Fine. I had to inform him that that voice was Joe Coy, who is Asian, and that was not me who was doing that voice. And he said, I said, "I appreciate what you're trying to do. You're trying to catch me, but you didn't catch me because you didn't do your research well enough. I was interviewing an Asian man who's a comedian who did an Asian voice." They then didn't air that video.
No way.
And I should say they didn't air the interview. And then other people came in, like John Waters, other authors came in, and they played his interview. And I kept contacting them saying, "When are you going to play my interview?" And they said, "We're doing a fund drive, a pledge drive. So we're not going to do it this week, but we'll do it next week." They never aired it. They buried it. And at the end, they said, "You can come back to New York and redo it if you want." Oh. So here's what I'm going to say, NPR and Brian Lair. And when you look these guys up, they're like respected journeyman journalists. You know, the truth is the beacon of light. You idiots got busted trying to bust me doing an interview. I came to you. I sat down to do an interview about my comedy book. You tried to bust me because of your retarded politics. You got busted, and then you buried the tape, and you've never aired it. So that's the kind of journalism, and those are the kind of cowards and hypocrites you get over there at NPR. So I was aware of this many years ago, and here's the bottom line. 86, I believe, of the people on their editorial staff are Democrats with 0 Republicans. But they always claim, like, well, that doesn't taint us, or that doesn't change the way. I'll go, let's just say 86 of the people were vegan and there were 0 meat eaters on that. Would you be doing glowing reviews of barbecue joints?
Right. Well said. And on top of that, now they're blaming this guy, saying, oh, the next time one of our people calls up a Republican congressman or something and tries to get an answer from them, they may well say, oh, I read these stories. You guys aren't fair, so I'm not going to talk to you. That's their managing editor of Standards and Practices, trying to blame the likely reluctance of Republicans to deal with NPR after this on Uri, as opposed to the actual content of what he's saying and the content that we hear from NPR all the time. It's like NBC saying, oh, now Republicans aren't going to want to come on after what we did to Ronna McDaniel. And that's somehow, I guess, Ronna McDaniel's fault. No, you have yourself to blame for this, folks.
100%. And look, it's all stuff we knew anyway, right? I mean, isn't all this stuff just stuff we knew anyway? Like, oh, Russian collusion. Okay, there was nothing there. Hunter Biden's laptop was fake. Okay. COVID came from a wet market. Okay. Ivermectin's horse face. Okay. We all knew it. We all knew what they were doing. They were lying. And there's a little game I like to play, Megyn, called Stupid or Liar. So NPR got everything wrong. They got the Russian collusion wrong. They got everything COVID wrong. They got Hunter Biden's lying. So are they stupid or are they lying? Because either way, you don't have to listen to them. I'm assuming they were lying.
Yeah, they're
or lying. They weren't lying, and they're just the worst news outlet ever because they got everything wrong.
They're lying. I mean, in Uri's piece, he talks about how they were openly saying, oh, I'm glad we're not going to cover the Hunter Biden laptop thing. That's good for Trump. That could help Trump. They're on a mission. The piece is absolutely stunning because we did know, but it's very juicy to hear it from an insider. Debt. You can go to bed thinking about it and you can wake up thinking about it too. Here's the truth. The system traps you in debt. High interest credit cards and loans then make it nearly impossible to pay off the debt you have accumulated. And then insane inflation keeps you stuck paycheck to paycheck. It's just this ongoing cycle. Done with Debt can be your lifeline. Done with Debt has an ingenious new strategy to help erase your debt faster and easier than you ever thought possible. Done with Debt will analyze all the debt options that you qualify for. They know how to reduce bills and how to cut interest rates. They're a skilled staff of negotiators. They know how to get debt out of your life permanently without bankruptcy and without a loan. Done with Debt has experts who can share with you strategies for eliminating debt. But you do need to hurry because some debt solutions are time sensitive. Here's how easy they make it. Go to donewithdebt.com. So easy to remember. Donewithdebt.com. Donewithdebt.com. Check it out. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.